Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hi everyone, I'm so excited to be bringing you another author deep dive, which of course you can tell is Melanie Harlow today. So I was actually shocked I haven't done one for her yet. I was sure that I did, but nope, it turns out I just thought about it. I don't do these deep dives for everyone. I know people will ask for certain authors, and it really has to be an author that, number one, I've read a significant amount of their books, and number two, I like a significant amount of their books, because I don't want to do a full recommendation video for an author that I'm just so about. But I've been reading Melanie Harlow for, I believe when I checked, it is almost 6 years now that I've been reading her, which is just wild to me that it's been so long. But her books just mean so much to me. They bring me so much joy. A lot of them are so fun. Some of them have a bit more angst than others, but for the most part, she is the small town author queen, and I find so much joy in her books. She, of course, hits a lot of those tropes that I love so much. Lots of single dads, lots of best friends, brothers, lots of age gaps. And so there's just so much that I enjoy about her books. So if you've never watched one of my deep dives before, hello. I do have a playlist for the deep dives that I've done. And the way that I do this is that I will speak about every book that this author has written, I'll at least tell you like the main points on it. The ones I haven't read, I do have my notes down here. I took notes on all of them. So the ones that I haven't read, I can't promise that I'm perfectly explaining them correctly. I'm just going based off of like the blurbs and what a few reviews have said. But I've read a pretty significant chunk of her books. And when I was looking back, I've at least read every single book from the One and Only series on, which you'll see. And then I have read almost at least one book from all the other series. And there's only one series that I haven't read any of her books from. So I've read a big chunk of her books, which is why it's time to do this. And I'm looking down here, I actually own a good chunk of her books as well, which I'm very excited about. So yeah, we're going to dive into these. We'll start with the earliest and move our way forward. And like I said, for some of them, I'll just have tiny little details to share. So feel free in the comments to add any color to that. Also, every book that I'm mentioning, you can currently buy. It doesn't appear what I'm seeing that she has any that are out of print. I don't think so. Again, maybe there's ones that I was missing if they are. So I have a link to each and every book in the description. You can grab them from Amazon, or you could even go to her website. She does have signed books there. She just actually opened her merch shop. I am actually a ARC reader for her as well, which you'll see one of the books that I'm going to share. I actually have a special copy that's only available for her hype team that she has. And I actually won it, and it's so pretty. So I do have some special benefits in that regard, but I've been reading her ARC. I was checking too. I've been reading her ARCs all the way back for the past 4 years now. So that was kind of cool too to see. But yeah, I'm excited about this. So let's go ahead and dive in. And the first books we actually have to talk about is, of course, ones I haven't read, and I did not know about this duet. So she has this duet that's actually listed as like a new adult historical romance duet, right? How cool is that? Okay, I love historical romance. In this series, actually, I'm very intrigued because it has characters that are mentioned in later series, or the families at least. So that's really cool. So this first duet was called the Speakeasy series, and it takes place in the 1920s, and it's about 20-year-old Tini O'Mara, or Tiny, I don't know how we pronounce her name, and she gets kidnapped by a mobster in Detroit. And this is Enzo Di Fiore, and she gets kidnapped by him. And then in the second book, we find out about, let's see, where is this at? Joey Lupo, which that's a name we'll come back to later on. So I guess this starts as a love triangle. and someone does quote unquote get picked in the end. So maybe it's a duet I won't 100% love. I don't know. But I love the idea that it is set in the 20s and that it's historical romance. And it does say that it's written as new adult historical. And these were written way back in 2013, which is crazy. She's been writing over 10 years now. So there is Speak Easy and Speak Low are those two. And again, you can still purchase these today. All right, after the Speak Easy duet, there is the Frenched series, okay? So this series starts off with Mia and Lucas in Frenched, and it says this one is about Mia, who is a jilted bride, and she decides to go on her honeymoon alone to Paris, where she meets Lucas, who is a Parisian bartender. So this is one of those where, like, seems like maybe it's a one-night stand or a short amount of time together, and yeah, it's gonna go from there. Haven't read that one. Then there is 1.5, which is called Yanked, and that is also Mia and Lucas, a short one about them. Then there is Forked, and this one is about Coco and Nick Lupo. See, look at that. We already bring that name around again, which is so cool. I had no idea about that. So this sounds like it's a descendant of Joey Lupo, who was just mentioned in that historical romance, which is so cool. So this one says, hold on, I did bring it up. So this is Coco Thomas, and she agreed to a last-minute engagement blowout for a spoiled mafia princess. There's also mafia being mentioned, which I think is very interesting. And you realize that the caterer is Nick Lupo, so it's this celebrity chef who is your ex, all right? And it says you strike a deal with Nick and you agree to spend the weekend in exchange for his services under the strict conditions that there will be no talking about the past, no second chances, and definitely no sex. Well, that's not going to be fun. And number 3, you violate all 3 conditions within 24 hours and spend 2 glorious days remembering what made you fall in love in the first place. So yeah, so Joey Lupo gets brought up. And there's also some connection to the mafia there. So I wonder what those connections are. That sounds very interesting. I definitely need to revisit this. Now, there is then Floored, and I have read Floored, but I read this one a long time ago. It was one of my first Melanie Harlow, so I don't remember it perfectly. But it had me pretty excited. So this one is about Erin Upton, and she's embarrassed to tell the cops that her townhouse was burglarized, especially when the first officer on the scene is Charlie Dyer. Where's the justice in the world when a neighbor know-it-all grows up to be a 6'3" of solid muscle with gorgeous green eyes, a slow, sexy, please arrest me now officer smile. So this is one of our first police officer romances, and this is a role that Melanie likes to bring around quite a bit. I believe we see a police officer in almost every series in here, which, I mean, I'm here for. I'm here for it. I appreciate a man in uniform as well. So anyway, this was actually, they were like childhood frenemies, and he is now a single dad and a cop. So I read that one a long time ago. I don't remember it too well at all. Then there was the Happy Crazy Love series, and this one begins with Some Sort of Happy, and this is about Skylar and Sebastian. We'll say this before I continue. Some Sort of Happy and Some Sort of Crazy, I believe, are both in Audible Plus, so you can listen to those for free. So this one is about Skylar and Sebastian, and they were a childhood crush. This one deals with mental health struggles, and the hero has OCD. The heroine is an actress. She has actually like failed at being an actress, and these two reconnect and get a chance at love now. So Some Sort of Crazy is one that I have actually read, and I remember it super vaguely. I don't have super strong memories of it, but we do have Natalie Nixon, who a psychic tells her that her life is about to be upended by a mysterious stranger, and she laughs it off. But then there's someone who could make her want to throw all of that away, and that's Miles Haas. So he's no stranger. They've known each other since high school. He's now a commitment-phobic sex blogger who has these just like crazy articles and like blog posts that he's written and everything. So he's not the man of her dreams, but she's not about to abandon everything she's worked so hard for just a little fun, except he makes her laugh and smells like heaven and looks as sexy as hell in those panty melting glasses. So this is a sexy looking hero here. Then there is Some Sort of Love, which is Jillian and Levi. This is a doctor heroine and a single dad hero. And they had a one-night stand a long time ago. But now he is, a single dad. And what does it say here? So he's keeping his distance because he thinks that she deserves something better. But of course she doesn't want that. She wants her sweet, sexy single dad that she finds. So we got to convince him that we should be together. So that's those ones. All right, then we move on to the After We Fall series. And this one begins with Man Candy. And I have, again, this is another one where it says I've read it, but I barely remember it. So, you know, like I said, some of these I read a long time ago, and I read kind of like one in every series. But this one, Man Candy, is about Quinn and Jamie, and this is an older brother's best friend. He was her childhood crush. He previously had rejected her, probably because it was the wrong time. But this one also says it does have pretty low angst, which I don't totally remember. But they end up being like friends with benefits, and it's not supposed to be anything more than that. But she can't help it because he's so sexy, and she just can't help herself. All right, next up we have Jack Valentini, and this one is Jack and Margot, and this is one that I definitely want to read. I can't believe I haven't read it because this one, it's a rich girl and a farmer who's a widower. He's an ex-military guy with PTSD, and it's very angsty. This one appears to be a widower who's not a single dad, though. I feel like that is pretty rare. Maybe I'm wrong about it. But she is going to be doing a PR job for his family farm, and so they're stuck working together, and she thinks this cowboy is super sexy. You know, I'm here for the broody cowboy, like we know. But there's a lot of like secrets and pain that he holds, probably from ex-military. So ex-military is another big theme for Melanie Harlow. She has a lot of ex-military as well as police officers and blue-collar men, which I'm here for. That's my jam. All the way, put it on toast, give it to me. So I'm here for that. All right, then there is If You Were Mine, and this one is about Theo and Claire, and this one is exciting because this one involves her hiring him for a wedding to be a fake date for it. We love it. And then they end up getting snowed in a little cabin together. So yeah, they're going to be stuck together and getting to know each other more. All right, then the last one in this series is From This Moment. And this one is Hannah and Wes. Now this one, y'all, I also don't know how I haven't heard about this one, okay? Because this one is a widower and a single mom, and it is dead husband's twin brother. And it looks like it would be a little bit angsty here. So she's really drawn to him, and they both understand, you know, the grief and anger and guilt they have like nobody else, because, you know, this is both of their loved one. And so now that understanding becomes desire, and that desire becomes uncontrollable. He says he doesn't care what people think, and love can never be wrong, but life has taught me its cruelest lesson: love doesn't always win. From what I saw in the reviews, a lot of the, like, what keeps them apart is possibly the mother-in-law, who, you know, would be her mother-in-law again if she married, you know, her husband's twin. So I can see why that would be difficult. That would be difficult. All right. Now, after kind of, you know, like I said, speeding through a few of those, we are now to the point where I have read all of the rest of the books we're going to talk about, and I own most of them. So these will be a little more detailed we're getting into. So next up, there is the One and Only series. And this begins with Only You. This one is Nate and Emmy. And she is a wedding planner and he's a divorce attorney, and they're neighbors. They have kind of a friendly like razzing of each other. You know, they're not like full-on enemies by any means at all. And what I love about this one is that like she also does like have a crush on him because he's really hot, but you know, he doesn't believe in love, and so it's never gonna work out. But he gets a baby dropped off on his doorstep with a note left from the mother that it's his turn to take care of his baby. Did not know that he had a child out there. This one night stand just drops the baby in his lap, and he is completely just like flabbergasted by all of this. And our heroine, being his neighbor, kind of steps up to like help him because, you know, he does want to be there for this new child in his life, but he doesn't know what to do. And also the note that was left by this woman says that I'll come back for her. So it's like, what does that mean? When is this woman going to be coming back for their child? And will he want to give the child up when the time comes? So we shall see. We have Only Him. Now, I will say this is the one that I remember the least of these series because I really remember Only Him and I really remember Only Love, which is coming next, or I mean Only You. So I don't remember this one as well, but this one is a second chance romance. It's Marin and Dallas, and they were each other's first love, but then it didn't work out. We were good together, better even than you're willing to admit. He's the only man I'd ever love another chance with, but he has a lot of secrets that he's holding, and it might not work out for them. So, you know, it's that kind of setup there. So a little bit angsty for sure. All right, then though, we have Only Love, and this is my favorite one in the series, and this is where we really get introduced to Cloverleaf Farms in here as well. And this one is about Stella and Ryan, and this one actually begins with Stella thinking that her boyfriend is going to propose, but instead he dumps her, so she doesn't know what to do. Now she has her grandma, who her grandma knows a good way to distract her, she says. So there happens to be a cute boy next door who's been helping her with yard work and clearly needs a little therapy. So who better to call than her newly single therapist granddaughter, all right? Now Ryan, he is ex-military. He works at Cloverleaf Farms. He has PTSD, and he may be the sexiest man she's ever met. You know, he has a lot of damage and a lot of baggage that he's carrying, and he doesn't want to push it onto her. So we'll see if she can handle him or if it's all going to blow up in disaster. Now, something I love about this book, and it's why it is my favorite in the series, is that there are actually a few chapters from the grandma's point of view. The grandma is matchmaking hard with this, okay, because she loves Ryan, her neighbor. She thinks he's such a sweet boy, and she loves her granddaughter, and she is pushing it to make it happen for sure. But I adore this one. We enter the Cloverleaf Farms era, okay, all right. We have some wonderful books to talk about. So we have Irresistible, which of course is one that gets recommended a ton. This is Mac and Franny, and they're a great place to start because a lot of our future books rely on this couple getting together and having lots of babies. So first off though, Mac already has 3 daughters. He's the CFO at Cloverleaf Farms, and Franny is the youngest daughter of the Sawyer family who runs Cloverleaf Farms. And so this is his boss's daughter. He's 10 years older than her. I will say that in this one, this was one of the first like age gaps that I remember like reading. But when you look back at it now, Mac is really uptight about this age gap when like nobody else is, because I think she's like 24 and he's like 34, and he's like, you're so young. And it's like, I'm not saying 24 isn't young, okay, speaking as the one who's closer to his age than closer to 24, but it's not like she's 18 and he's crushing on his boss's daughter. Like, she is a woman, but she was also really babied by her family because she actually had a heart condition when she was young. She had to have surgery when she was young, and so again, there is a very like, her family is very protective of her. But they also love Mac, so it's not like they would be hating on him or anything. But she ends up being kind of like a nanny sometimes for his 3 girls, who we meet and are absolutely adorable. And we will definitely be seeing these girls again for sure. But also, this series is about the 5 Sawyer sisters, okay? So we begin our journey with Irresistible. Then we have Undeniable, and this one is Oliver and Chloe, and they were childhood frenemies. Wait, yes, Undeniable, sorry. I might get some of these mixed up. And this is one that gets a bad rap. A lot of people don't care for this one, and a lot of it is because the hero is kind of an asshole, and he is really kind of like using the heroine more than anything. I mean, she really liked them when they were young, and even though they were childhood frenemies, there was a point where almost something more happened, and then the hero kind of fucked it up, and so she's just really kind of held a grudge all this time. One of the reasons a lot of people have problems for this one is that once he shows some interest in her again in this new time, she just kind of like forgives everything that he did, like lickety split. And I can understand why that irritates some people. Okay, I feel it, I appreciate it, and I see it. But you know what? We got to move along. So there's that one. Then there is Insatiable, which I really like this one. I mean, look at this cover. Hello. Okay. This one is Noah and Meg. And in this one, we have Noah, who these are childhood friends to lovers. And Noah is a cop. He is a dog dad. And he is a wonderful uncle and brother. These two become friends with benefits. And yeah, he is super protective and absolutely beautiful. And they end up deciding she's only in town for a few days. And so he takes her to his sister's wedding. And then it kind of like spoils over from there. And they're like, well, let's just have some fun while we're together. Some of that fun involves some handcuffs. And we begin to learn that Melanie Harlow doesn't mind sneaking in some naughty stuff now and then in her books. We'll see that happen for sure. And yeah, this one is a friends to lovers. It's really beautiful. Then we have probably the most like moving one in the series for me is Unbreakable. And this is about Sylvia, who in previous books we've seen she is the married one. She has 2 kids. They're teenagers. I think they're both teenagers. I don't know exactly. But anyway, her husband has just left her. He has a pregnant mistress, and she has really kind of struggled because they wanted to have more kids, and she ended up having, infertility issues after having 2 kids, and she wanted more. And now her husband has his new girl is pregnant, and she ends up going to stay with her family. I think they're there for the holidays. Yeah, she's with her family for the holidays. And then there is Henry DeSantis, who he is also a divorcee, and him and his wife were having fertility issues, which was very interesting to read it from the man's point of view. That's one of the things I really loved about this book, is seeing what it does to a man to feel like he's the one who's not providing a child for his wife. I know that women suffer that as well, being the ones who carry the children, but I think it's important to remember that, men want a family and want to be the one to provide the children as well. And so yeah, it was very interesting to see from Henry's point of view. But anyway, he works for her family, and they just have this crazy chemistry with each other, and they end up hooking up over the holidays. And neither one of them has had enough time to heal, but she's a single mom and her kids have to come first. But Henry makes her feel beautiful, sexy, and wanted, things she hasn't felt in years. And so they're just willing to give it a go. And I love this one because this one is a second chance, but it's both of them getting a second chance at love. Not a second chance with each other, but like a second chance, later in life to find love again. And I love that too. So I really love the issues this one is talked about, and I will say this does have a surprise baby for them, and some people might say that's awfully convenient, but guess what, romances, they get to be convenient sometimes. So I really enjoyed this one a lot. I think they are going to be mowing, so we're moving right along. Then we rounded off the first generation with the last sister we were missing. This is April and Tyler. And this is one that is also very polarizing for people. Now, this one was a teenage pregnancy between these two, and Tyler had his chance at the major leagues of baseball, and she ended up, letting him off the hook. He went to school, went to go play, and she actually gave their son up for adoption. And now it's many years later, and it's time to, I can't remember, I'll be honest, I can't remember how they reconnect with their son, but this does involve them as, grown-ups now. I believe that Tyler ends up like coaching their son. And anyway, there is a lot of drama with that. A lot of people have a lot of issues with this one because they feel like Tyler got off the hook too easy and April was the one who had to carry all of the shame and the pain of it. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just also saying that Tyler would have if she had honestly meant it, but it feels more like he thought she also wanted this choice and so he didn't push it. And really for me, it cracks up to the fact that they were both teenagers. And, you know, giving that son up for adoption was a good choice. He's very loved by the family that he got. But they just have a lot of pain they have to work through of, like, you know, dealing with that now. But I thought it was very moving and I enjoyed it. But I understand why it was too much for some people as well. You know, and I like that she dealt with adoption as the, you know, not being the one who was adopted, but being the parents who gave the child up and then getting to meet him when he's, you know, been raised by other people. Like, I think that is an interesting thing to look at. Okay, now we go into the second generation here. Okay, here we go. So we have Ignite, which, yes, I will show off both of my beautiful editions of Ignite. So there's the main cover, which of course has Andrew on it, who we will say definitely, is this the one? Is this him? I think this is him. I don't know. He definitely pops up on her cover sometimes. I think that one's him. I don't know. She has some of the same hotties that show up on her cover sometimes. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. It's fine. It's cool. It's cool. But anyway, we have the cover Ignite here. And then I have this lovely edition, the Book Bonanza edition. That is gorgeous. I was able to order the pretty edition of Tease as well, which we should be getting soon. But anyway, that one's too shiny. So we have a second generation of Cloverleaf Farms here. I decided to skip to this instead of continuing to go in chronological order because I was like, we'll just do this entire series because in different places this is listed differently. Like this will be listed as book 6 in Cloverleaf Farms because she did list it as Cloverleaf Farms, and in some places it will be listed as the first in the Next Gen series. I don't think it matters. But anyway, this is Ignite, and this one is about Dex and Winnie. And Winnie is Franny and Mac's daughter. And Winnie is the next door neighbor to firefighter Dex and his 2 little girls. So we have a girl dad. It's adorable. He's a firefighter. And they first really get introduced when she has sworn off meds. She's not going to date for a whole year. Even the super protective, sexy former SEAL's next door. Former SEAL, something that she loves to do. Her dad, I believe, is a former SEAL. I think Mac was a former SEAL. And then also, another character I really love later is a former SEAL as well. So she really loves to write them as well. And then he ends up like rescuing her from a fire that's starting and she's like in only a towel. But anyway, he loves their little girls. They do have an age gap. They're 12 years apart. But again, it's that kind of age gap where like she's in her 20s. It's okay. I'm cool with it. But I really liked this one. And this book I remember really like ignited my love of her because I hadn't read one of her books in a little while. And I signed up for an arc of Ignite through a PR company. And I was like, oh my God, Melanie Harlow. She still got it. I was here for it. All right. Next up, there was Taste. And this is Gianni Lupo and Ellie, who, from my notes, like Gianni Lupo, remember he is related to the Lupos back from that series. And then Ellie is the daughter from the ones from French, from what I looked at. So again, I don't remember them super well, but they are kind of like rivals to lovers. And they end up stuck in a blizzard together, and this one ends up being a surprise baby. Now, this is one of the surprise baby ones that I really wanted to slap the girl upside the face because she's like, he won't want to be a dad. I don't know if I want that. And I'm like, no. Not only do like your like families know each other and stuff, like you're not gonna be able to keep this baby a secret when you're gonna keep the baby, you know, like I don't know. It was a little annoying to me with that, but I like the snowed in. They end up playing games while they're snowed in and it ends up leading to sexy time. And I mean, it was pretty cute. Like there's cuteness. I'm not saying it's not. Then we have Tease. This one is Felicity and Hutton. And Felicity, it says Hutton French. So I believe he's connected with the French series as well. And Felicity, yeah, so she is also one of the McAllisters. And so they're actually friends. And so Hutton French is a hot billionaire and her friend. And when she goes to a high school reunion, she pretends that he's her fiance. So she lies about this fake engagement and everybody hears about it. The families hear about it. They're on blogs everywhere. Her food blog ends up blowing up. And now, like, before she can set the record straight, Hutton wants to give it a little bit of time. A phony engagement will keep his matrimony mad mother and every matchmaking granny off his back. So he even suggests that they move in together. So they practice kissing and undressing and saying things. And they're more than just role playing. Although there is some role playing in this book for sure. So this one I didn't totally love. There is an anxiety rep for the hero in this, so I understand. But this is one of those where, like, he's a commitment phobe for no reason, because this is like his best friend and they're really good together, and like, why are you being a commitment phobic little twerp? But you know, you can tell this one's not my fave. And this is where we reach the point in my deep dive where I was getting a little bit like, maybe these books are just like getting a little bit like, eh. But girl, we have so far to go, because guess what came out next? Guess what book came out next? And it was a heavy hitter, okay? Okay? Because then we had Tempt. We had Tempt, which, yes, I have 3 versions of. Let me show you the original. When I saw the blurb for this baby, I was like, oh, mama, sign me up for it, okay? Because this one is about Millie. I think this is Millie. Sorry, did I write down? Yeah, this is Millie. So this is the oldest McAllister daughter. And Zach, who is we have another ex-Navy SEAL. Because again, we have all of them. And this one starts as a one-night stand, a sexy one-night stand that these two have. Check them out. Check them out. They have this hot one-night stand. Yes, this is one of my prized possessions. Had to pay a lot of money to get this book. I don't even care. And they have this one-night stand. Then they go their separate ways. They know they probably won't get another chance together. I also do have this version. See, I have like every version of this one. I love it. And they can't stop thinking about each other. But then Zach discovers that he has a long lost son that he was not told that he had. A woman that he'd had, you know, kind of a fling with, and then he was in the military. She never told him, and now this woman has like passed, and her son is getting married, and he gets invited to his long lost son's wedding. And where does this wedding happen to be? At Cloverleaf Farms. And who happens to be the wedding planner? Millie. And who happens to be his son's ex-girlfriend? Millie. So now our fun little one night stand we had has a whole lot of complications, but the one thing that is not complicated, their feelings for each other, which are amazing. And so I love this book so much. It is my favorite Melanie Harlow, if you can't tell by all my copies of it, but Tempt is my favorite one. Not only because it's a plus size heroine, not only because it's a sexy salt and pepper older man who's ex-military, but also because this does have a bit of like long distance that gets handled. And normally that's a huge turnoff, right? We want our characters to be together, but it was just such a mature relationship, but still very fun. And you could just feel the longing and the pining where they're like, is this best for the both of us to pine after each other? Or is this something where we're like, we just need to take this time where we have to be this way, and then, you know, it's worth it. Also, they're at different phases in life. This one is a pretty big age gap. And Zach, he, you know, number one, he like never had kids that he knows, right? He didn't know about a son. And now he has a grown son who could be giving him grandchildren soon. And he has this beautiful, vivacious, loving woman who she will want a family of her own. Is he ready to start from scratch? So anyway, I gushed about that one enough. Did you get it? I love Tempt. You have to read it. It's so good. You can read it as a standalone if you want. Personally, as I said, I didn't quite vibe with books 2 and 3 in that series. But all of these can be standalone ones. They really can. I'm just working my way through the story with you because it's just the bestest. Okay, next up we have the Bellamy Creek series, which this series then, I was super pumped for this, right? Because this was sold as a series that Melanie wrote during COVID that was kind of inspired by Schitt's Creek, or at least the first one was. So the first one is actually Drive Me Wild, and this is Blair and Griffin. And in this one we have Blair, who she's kind of like running away from her family, and I describe this one as kind of being like a riches to rags. So she kind of just leaves it, she leaves this party where she's even in this big fluffy dress, and her car breaks down in this small town of Bellamy Creek. And she happens to meet up with the mechanic there, Griffin, but she has no way to pay for her car to be fixed because she's cut off from her family and she has nothing. She doesn't have a place to stay. So he offers her the place to stay, and she is going to work off her car parts basically by helping him out around the family business. His family business isn't doing so well. It's just barely getting along, but she decides to help zhuzh it up a little bit and use some of her skills as like a socialite and as like a event planner to like give this some zhuzh to his family business. And it's just really cute. There's also some role playing that happens in this one. It's Grumpy Sunshine. Also, she is a baker and he's a mechanic, and it's really sweet, and I loved this one. I had a great time reading this. Next up we have Make Me Yours, and this one, yep, there's the lawnmower getting started. This one is Cheyenne and Cole, and this one is a brother's best friend. It's a single dad. So Cheyenne is actually Griffin's sister, and Cole is Griffin's best friend. He's a single dad, and she ends up staying back in her family home, I believe. So she's a kindergarten teacher. She's 30 years old. And she drafts he's the hot dad, single dad next door. And so she sends an accidental sext to him. She wasn't supposed to send it. He wasn't supposed to see it. And he definitely wasn't supposed to text back and tell her to keep going. So Cole is everything she's ever wanted. He's sexy and protective, devoted, a dedicated cop to the whole town, the kind of guy you can trust to keep his hands to himself even when you're desperately hoping he won't. I'm not the girl he thought he'd end up with, but after all this time, I might finally get the chance to say the words I've dreamed of. Make me yours. Isn't he a sexy single dad? You know, I told you, she has her thing, man. Sexy single dads are her thing. All right, then we have Call Me Crazy, and this one is Bianca and Enzo. Okay, so this one is an enemies to lovers, but it's a marriage of convenience as well as a baby deal. So this one, I gotta say, and I have this in my notes, like the setup and the reasoning for this was a bit confusing to me. Okay, it was a bit confusing, like how we got in the situation that we got into. Okay, because Enzo is supposed to, like, his family wants him to be married, and so he proposes to like the girlfriend he currently has, who is just so not ready to get married, and like he needs to, or he might lose his position with the family business. Now his like enemy in town overhears this, and it turns out that she really wants a baby, and she's planning to do like in vitro and like have a baby on her own. And so she agrees that she will be the family to help him get the family business if he'll be married to her long enough to help her have the baby. Now, it's one of those where she's like, I just want your stuff. I don't want to make a baby the old-fashioned way. But what a boring way to do that. We don't want to do it that way. So my like kind of issues with this one is like, I'm willing to jump the shark quite a bit to get to the romance reasons for the situation, but it is always difficult for me of like why the family wants you to be married to do that. Like I just read another book that's like that too, where it's like, why do you have to be married? You know, it's difficult to make a marriage of convenience reasons matter in a modern setting, but there's one that I even, you know, there's another one that I'm going to talk about soon that's the same kind of thing. And I just don't understand that trope, but it's all right. It was still fun. These two are crazy together. They had some pretty sexy scenes and everything, but this does deal with like infertility issues as well as the, you know, other stuff that goes with that. So I love it. Okay, then we have the last book in this series was Tie Me Down, and this one is Beckett and Maddie, and this one, oh, this one, you guys, like tore my heart out. It was so good, but like it hurt so bad. So this one is a single mom, and they were childhood friends, and now she's back in town, and I believe she's trying to fix up her family home so she can sell it. I believe that was the scenario with this one. Again, it's, yes, so she's trying to sell her late mother's house. And so he invites her and her son to stay with him because they don't have a place to stay while they're fixing up this house. And then he's actually taking care of his elderly father, who I believe is getting dementia, and things aren't going super well. And so, like, they end up having a friends with benefits scenario, and he really feels like, you know, he would be holding her back if they would be together, and that he's like not good enough. There is, of course, some rope play, like the Tie Me Down does actually have it with it, but this one does have some pretty emotional parts in it, so just be prepared that this small town romance might squeeze you just a little bit. Okay, then we get to her current series that she has, and then just a few of the standalones, right? So the current series that is coming out is Cherry Tree Harbor, Cherry Tree Harbor, which, sorry about that, which starts with Runaway Love. This one is Austin and Veronica, and this is a runaway bride romance, okay? So we have Veronica, who is about to say I do, and then she just realizes that the man she was going to marry is an absolute tool, and so she breaks up and she runs. She ends up in Cherry Tree Harbor, and she has no experience. She's still, the only thing she's wearing is a wedding gown, and she has no skills or experience. Well, this restaurant she ends up at is actually one that Austin's sister runs, I believe. Is it sister or friend? Can't remember now. It must just be a friend. It's a friend, because we'll get to her book later on. Oh, it's coming for us. The mower's coming. And so, yeah, she ends up being a nanny to his twins for the summer. And he's very grumpy, doesn't think she'd be good at it, but like she really needs a job, and she ends up getting the job doing this. And of course, they end up falling in love. He just loves her. At the end of the summer, she'll be gone. And if I'm not careful, she might run away with my heart. Well, don't worry. She's going to stick around. Okay, then we have Hideaway Heart. This is my favorite in this series. Is this my favorite in this series? I think this is my favorite in this series, and probably my like second favorite of all of her books. I really, really love Hideaway Heart. And this one is about Kelly and Xander. And Xander is the Buckley in this, so he's the brother in this family and everything. And Kelly is a musician. She goes by this Pixie Heart, and she's a country sensation, and so she wants a vacation. So she's going to take 2 weeks and go to this isolated cabin to stay, and this happens to be near Cherry Tree Harbor. Now, he ends up getting asked by a friend to look out for her. I can't remember how they're related, why this is. But I think someone calls him in to do it. Is it her brother? I need to look this up. I'm Kevin's sister. Okay, so he gets asked to look out for her. So basically he becomes a bodyguard. So I actually was wondering why he got called in. But anyway, it's a friend, and he agrees to do this. But Kelly does not want him there. And he's like, you don't realize, you think you're alone, but people are going to find out where you are, and then you might be in danger. And sure enough, there's a paparazzi who ends up finding her. And so, yeah, she's staying with him and keeping him, or wait, they are stuck in a forced proximity where he's staying with her at her 2-week like getaway that she's doing, and things are gonna heat up between the two of them. There's a little bit of like role play. There's a little bit of CNC role play that happens in this, but I was not expecting her to do, but it's really hot. And I really love this. There's no like third act breakup for these two, but they do also have to overcome some long distance in this one, which, as I said, I feel like doesn't get shown enough. And that's something that happens a lot in real life for people, having to have parts of your relationship that are long distance. And Xander is trying to start his own like a bar, so he's trying to be like stable in one place while she is still like touring and doing different events and everything, so they're going to be in that position. But I love these two. They're so sweet together, and Xander is just adorable. Okay, then we have Make Believe Match. This is another one that's a marriage of convenience because family reasons. They're also kind of like rivals in this situation where what was I gonna say? So this is Devlin and Lexi, And her family owns this like ski resort, and her grandmother wants her to like be settled down before she takes it over, because it should be a family business. And he was actually trying to buy out the business so that it could be used for other things. And when he ends up losing his job, he says, screw it to them, I'm going to help her make a go of this business. So they end up getting married and being able to tell her grandma that she got married, and they're going to try to run this business together. So there you go. There's a setup of that one. As I said, a bit of paper thin reasoning for marriage of convenience, but we don't mind. Okay, we don't mind at all. Okay, next up, there is Small Town Swoon, and this is Ari and Dash. So this is the one I was talking about. This is a special edition that is only for her Club Harlow. And so it has a cute little postcard she put in it, and then it has this fun little like step back of the two of them, and it's a Club Harlow edition. So thank you so much to Melanie for this. But this one is Dash and Ari. So Dash, Buckley is actually an actor, and Ari was his sister's friend, and she actually made a pass at him when she was young, actually when she was underage. He's only a few years older, but like he was underage. They were in his father's house. His sister was just down the way. So she makes a pass at him, and he rejected her because not the right time, Ari. And she's always felt a little bit like put off by him since then, right? She's felt a little bitter about him since then. But the thing is, he is back in town after not getting, he's on a TV show where he plays this super sexy guy. And that's like all he's known for, is being on this. And he really wants to get more serious acting work. And so he's told he needs to go and like work on his romance hero vibes. And so he goes back home to Cherry Tree Harbor, and he ends up kind of stepping up and helping Ari with her family business. Her parents need to go on a vacation. Her father's health isn't doing super great. And so she's trying to run this all on her own. And he ends up stepping up to help, because he's like, well, I'm in town and you need help and I want to help you. And she quickly loses the like animosity she had, which basically was her embarrassment. Let's be honest. She was embarrassed that he rejected her, even though again, he should have. It was right of him to reject her. They become friends, and so they start watching romance movies together. He's showing her what is a beautiful romance and like what that means and everything, and it was just so cute. So yeah, this is a best friend's brother. They become a friends with benefits. This is also like a big choice, like how are they going to still be together? She's going to be staying in their small town. He's still wanting to act, like what will their future be like together? But it has a really sweet conclusion. It's so cute. So I loved Small Town Swoon. Now, Small Town Swoon was supposed to be the last book in this series. They do have a sister. Her name is Mabel. And Melanie had said when she first finished Small Town Swoon that Mabel wasn't really speaking to her. So this was just going to be a quartet. That was going to be it. She's going to go on to a new series. Now, I'm not one to beg an author for a book. And a lot of her fans do understand. They're like, oh, that makes sense. If it's not speaking to you, you don't want to force the book. But there were some really cool tidbits that were being hinted at. And when she wrote the bonus scene for this book, there was a hint that she was with a Lupo, that she was with someone named Joe Lupo. And if you have noticed, that Lupo name has come up a few times before. And after reading the bonus scene, she was like, no, that's just, I plan her to be with him. And we were all a little confused, because part of the reason why Mabel left, and if you go all the way back to the first book in this series, the reason why Mabel couldn't look after her twin niece and nephew was because of this like job she was going to be taking. I think it was like an internship or a fellowship. She's an archaeologist, I think. Don't quote me. I believe that's the case. And so she was going to be gone. And I was all like, well, how are they going to meet? Like, how is this going to work? I'm so interested. And I had a theory. I'm just saying this. I told my friend, you know, when she said, oh, she's not going to write the book, I really hope she would, because I think that would be so cool. And I had recognized the Lupo name. Again, not having read a ton of the books with the Lupos, I was like, I know that Lupo is a name and that was a Easter egg. And I told my friend, I was like, I wonder if they met in another country. This was my guess. I'll tell you what this next book really is going to be about. Is I was like, what if she is, you know, in a different country doing her archaeological or whatever, and ran into him and because he was there or whatever, and then find out that they're, you know, something would happen there, and that's how they ended up together, right? That was my guess without anything. Then just like a month later, she put out in her newsletter that Mabel had started talking to her, and she did want to write Mabel's book. And so there would be one more book in the Cherry Tree Harbor. So later this month, or this year, we will be getting Slapshot Surprise, which is Mabel and Joe, which we did know who that couple was going to be if you read the bonus scene, because they were already together in a future preview that was shown. And it turns out that based on the blurb of this one, they're going to be in a turbulent airplane together and then end up in like a layover together and have a one-night stand. And this is going to be a surprise baby. I believe they both go to like the same wedding somewhere, but then like whether they're like they're on the same plane too, and then they end up hooking. That's what I'm seeing. Now he's a professional hockey player and they have a one-night stand, and it's going to be a surprise baby, and I'm so excited. And there was a joke because the previous Lupo we talked about, like there's a Lupo we talked about that is Taste, and that one is a surprise baby as well. So she's like, I just can't help it, those Lupo men. So I am super excited to see that. Now we just have 3 other books to talk about real quick. I know this is getting long. That's why these deep dives are a lot of work, y'all. They're a lot of work, and I didn't even go into perfect detail about all of these. There are 3 standalones that Melanie has written in collaboration with other authors. There is Strong Enough, which she wrote with David Romanoff, and I have read this one. This is an romance about Derek and Maxim. This is they're roommates. It's a bi-awakening. There's an age gap. One of them is like with a woman in the beginning, so this is a bit of a forbidden relationship. But I remember enjoying this quite a bit. I think I listened to the audio for it. It was really good. And then there is Hold You Close, which is with Corinne Michaels. I've not read this. This is Ian in London. It says this is a best friend's brother, childhood crush. They end up as co-guardians of their godchildren when their friends die. So it sounds a little bit like there's a movie that has like Katherine Heigl and Josh Duhamel in it. It sounds kind of like that. So this sounds angsty yet really beautiful. I did not know about this book. I will be reading it. It sounds great. And then there's Imperfect Match, which was also written with Corinne Michaels. And this one is Reed and Willow. And it is a matchmaker and a friends to lovers. It was always you. And I think she's going to test out her matchmaking skills on him and actually wants to be with him instead. So those are all the books that I found that are connected with Melanie Harlow. Let me know which ones are your favorite. Let me know which ones of these you want to try maybe after this. Again, I do have links to every single one of them down below. If you use my Amazon link, it does help out the channel, so definitely do that if you're interested. But also, as I said, I'll have the link to her website. You can check her out if you want to get a signed book from her. And yeah, just send your love to Melanie and tell her that Jen sent you if you check her out because of me. Thank you so much for watching, friends. It means so much to me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.